Kevin Nagle, thank you for taking the time to sit and have a conversation with us today. Obviously, there's a few different topics that we wanted to touch on with yourself and speak about over the last couple of months. But first of all, how are you? How is it nice to be back in Huddersfield?
Love being back in Huddersfield, and thank you for having me here today. No, I'm excited. It's springtime that you can feel, and we've got a lot of excitement the remaining months that we have for this season.
Obviously, there's a few topics for us to touch on. We've had a coaching change in the time since we last spoke, and season card renewals have been announced and released. But if we start with the biggest change at the club recently, that saw John Worthington installed as interim head coach for the remainder of the 2024-25 campaign. Can you explain to us why that change was made for the remainder of the season?
No, look, I would say this much. We really enjoyed, and I really like, Michael Duff a lot. I think in so many ways he was really a great coach. But we know that there was a time in the season that it was a struggle, and I mean we worked with them to try to see if we could remedy those things, but unfortunately we had to make the change. I'm really excited to have John Worthington come on board. John is familiar with the club, as you know. He bleeds Huddersfield Town AFC. He's a Yorkshireman, and so I'm delighted. And I think the reality of it is that you saw what John performed in his first, match that he had against, Crawley, and I mean, I was delighted and really enthusiastic about the last 9 games.
The aspirations of the club aren't a secret to anyone, and we've been open about our desire to return to the Sky Bet Championship as quickly as we can. Do you have a contingency plan in place should that not be achieved this season?
Well, a contingency plan, I'm not sure exactly what, someone asked that question, but I would say this much. Our goal is to be in the championship this next year. There's still a chance for us to be in the championship, as you know. We've not been eliminated from, automatic promotion. At the same time, we're in a playoff position. However, if that doesn't happen, we'll make plans happen. We'll make plans to make sure that there's going to be a 2025, 2026 season, that will be fully loaded and ready to go.
You've obviously invested heavily into the playing squad since you arrived here, and we have another important transfer window approaching the summer regardless of our divisional status. Is there anything that you can tell us about your plans in that area?
Well, I'd say this much. There's been a lot on social media. There's been a lot of discussion about our player personnel, and we have excellent players. We've got one of the best squads in the league. From a talent standpoint, there's no question about that. I think that there are enough experts, in the industry that would even validate that as well, to say that we've got one of the best, clubs in the league. Now, we've had some injuries, and those injuries, unfortunately, we've had, I'd say, a little bit more than the average team, but there are more injuries today than there were in yesterday's game. But I would say in terms of, we're going to be very active, in the open market, I would say, come summer, because that's just the thing to do. We don't know exactly what we're going to play yet. I believe it'll be championship. That will necessitate some upgrades in terms of, quality of player, although I've got a lot of, belief in our current team. The reality is we want a best-in-class model, and that's what we'll work toward.
Perfect, thank you very much. If we think about off the pitch, our acquisition of the John Smith Stadium is an ongoing priority of ours. Are there any updates available at all on how that's progressing?
Yes, I mean, I would have hoped that we would have closed that by now, but as some people know, the ownership of the Huddersfield Giants, they made an offer for, I think it was called Shea Stadium, Shea Field. That was accepted, but they have a priority where they've got to wait a period of time to see if there can be a competitive bid to his proposal. And I think that the reality is, I think that in the next 30 to 60 days we should be able to finalize that, I hope. But we're ready. We're prepared to do that right now. But we don't know how long the Giants will be in our stadium here. We still have that to negotiate, with Mr. Davey. And I feel that'll really hopefully go very smooth. He's been very cooperative so far, and we've come down to the very end of the game, so to speak. And so we'll try to accommodate him as best we can, but I hope that we can have full ownership, shortly thereafter.
Could you just talk to us a little bit about the possibilities that become available to us once the ownership is in place?
Well, I think what will happen is, as you can see, there are a number of changes that are going on at the stadium now. We've done that knowing that whether the Giants would be here or not. But I think what you'll see is a massive, really investment that will go in the stadium. It's got great bones. I think that I'd like to see some changes in the toilets. I think that that's really necessary. You'll see, I think, some additional rooms that are being modernized. Whether it's the Rose room and some others that are like that, so that we can have other types of events here. And I think that those are the things. We've made several $1 million investments really into the stadium already, with the belief that eventually when we take full control, it'll even get greater.
Just building on the back of that, like you say, a significant investment's been made into the infrastructure of the club in the last 12 months especially. Is that work going to continue this summer?
Yes, across the board, really. Really the investment will go not only just at John Smith Stadium, but I think it might be a new name that will to be determined and shared. And then at the same time, we'll look at really at the training and, in the academy area to see what kind of investments we're making. We're looking right now what additional upgrades we're going to be making there, because it needs to stay world class. As you know, we've invested a lot in our academy and our training facility, and that is really much of our future. And that's something that, I've personally taken an interest in, so I have high priority in that as well. But just in general, the team at large. I think anybody who would come in here right before that we took control of it and saw the organization, what it was then and where it is now, across the board, really invested in all facets of it, knowing that we're here long term.
We're fast approaching, this feels funny to say, your 2-year anniversary as being chairman and owner of the football club. In that time, there's been a desire to grow and enact positive change. Can you explain to us why that's been a priority and how that relates to your ambition of the club, both on and off the field?
Well, over the last 2 years, I've lost a lot of hair, but I think what I'll try to do is grow my eyebrows out, and fake people out a little bit. But it's come with a lot of excitement. As I mentioned, we thought we'd perform maybe up until a certain point better on the pitch. So we'll continue to invest in that area. That's something that is the highest priority, because that's why our supporters come out to see. But at the same time, we'll continue to invest in the stadium. That's the place that they come in. It's sort of our sacred ground while we're watching matches when they're at home, and we'll continue to invest in that area, as I alluded to earlier. And then at the same, just in general, really the community. The community is really important to me. And I believe in charity. I was very fortunate because I'm a person that came into wealth, as he got to be older. And I knew that I would have an obligation and a desire to give back. And so we'll continue to do that in the community as well. So that will be really Huddersfield Town, is really a community asset that can be proud of the stadium and be proud of its club, and that our supporters can enjoy coming to. And seeing lots of other activities, hopefully when we take control of the stadium, we'll see concerts and other types of events that they can come to on the days where there's not a Huddersfield Town match.
I think one of the things that's been really important to you since you arrived was being transparent with supporters and having a dialogue with them. With that in mind, there's been a fair bit of speculation around the amount of money you've spent since you've become owner and chairman of the club. Would I be able to ask you how much you've invested?
Well, it'll be, in the next month or so, by the time we get done, it'll be 40 million, pounds that we will have invested, here. That won't stop just there. We're going to continue to invest. We can just see so many of the opportunities. I wish I could say I was going to put 100% of it, into just the team itself, but it can't. The viability of the organization requires really investment across the board, whether it's the club or whether it's the stadium, whether it's making sure that we have assets for our supporters to enjoy, such as H-Town, and some other areas, as we alluded to earlier, that we're doing in the development inside the stadium. So when they come here, they can have a fully deployed asset that we can use and not have things that are broken down or partially broken down. I want to repair all those things. So I'm excited about doing that. And then, as I said, also, investing in the community where it makes sense.
perhaps the most active discussion present at the club away from the pitches regarding our 2025-26 season cards that we launched last week and the rise in prices that came with that. Could you let us know why you felt now was the correct time to make those changes and make those raises?
Yes, really, there is no great time to raise and announce card price. Those need to happen. And, you know, I would say this much. It's been almost 10 years, really 9 years, where we've not had any, you know, real price increase on season cards. And so what I would say is this. You know, a lot of people have said, why did they go so high? First of all, there were no price increases for 9 years. I'd say the second thing is we had one of the lowest priced season tickets, not only just in the championship, we would have definitely the lowest. We'd have one of the lowest priced tickets in League One, and even really would be very competitive in a lot of National League clubs. So if you just take essentially the cost of living in the UK and factor that out from the last time that we had a price increase, you would see that our average ticket pricing, what was just released, is about that number. There's not anything more than that. I would say this, however, we did engage consultants, and we asked them, you know, maybe the best recommendations. And so we came in and around their recommendations with some modifications that we made. So that's how we arrived at those numbers. I will say this much, you know, that we are making some changes to it as a result. You know, we listened to our supporters. You know, I had a lot of, you know, direct, you know, messaging back to me on maybe some suggestions. And we're going to be making some material changes in the area of students and children, you know, of parents that buy season cards. And that will come out very shortly, but I believe that people will be very happy. I'll also give you another caveat. Those people who are season ticket holders that re-up, that we're also going to add, instead of getting 10% off on all merchandise, it will go to 25%, which is also very significant. And then the last thing, we're going to extend out the time frame to re-up on your season cards to May 2nd. So there's a couple changes there, and I'll wait to see what the final pricing comes on students and then also, you know, children. But it's going to be really exciting on the final numbers.
That's brilliant to hear, and I'm sure supporters will welcome that as well. I think one of the important distinctions to make while we're putting things in context is obviously the percentage rise that some people will have quoted is because the base level price for so many adult seats was low previously. But like you've said previously, it's really important for us to ensure that revenue across the football club rises so that we're able to have the level of investment that you want to continue giving.
Yes, I mean, really, the reality of it is that we, in order to compete, there's two things we have to consider. One is the EFL going to impose requirements? If you're on League One, 60% of your revenues can be invested on players' salaries, or can we sustain up to a $42 million loss, a £42 million loss this year over 3 years? And the reality of it is that you need to boost your revenues in order to compete and continue to obtain high quality players. And that's really important, or in combination to reduce your losses. And we've got a substantial loss that we're looking at this year. I think that, you know, could be 15, maybe as many 20 million pounds. That's almost half of what we would be allowed over a 3-year period of time. So I know that I've been very vocal at times about that, but it's just a reality, it's just a fact. And so that's part of the reason also why we're investing in the infrastructure, so we can have other areas of revenue opportunities to build on that will qualify us for what the EFL sets as the priorities.
I think it's really important for us to draw those distinctions, and especially with the monetary side of things, it can get quite complex. So it's interesting to hear you discuss those. Obviously, due to the changes in prices, we've had a lot of feedback from supporters who said they'd no longer be renewing for the season ahead. Is there anything you'd say to them at all?
Well, I hear those people, and I mean, it makes me sad. I mean, I truly mean that, because I think about myself, you know, again, as a kid, and not going to events. I mean, I just couldn't. Our family just couldn't afford it. So I hear those people, and I know people frequently talk about Huddersfield, you know, being really a working class community, and I'll certainly accept that. So we've tried to make some modifications, especially in the area where mothers or parents of children. You know, some of them may be single parents, like I was as well. You know, a part of. So we tried to make those modifications so that they work. But I empathize with them as well as sympathize as well, because I realize it's a reality. But I hope that they find a way to come back, because we do have really one of the best prices in town. I think it's a great entertainment. It's a place for you to kind of forget about the challenges of everyday activity, that, you know, problems that we have in life, and watch the lads on the pitch, you know, hopefully win one for, you know, Huddersfield. So I hope they come back.
Perfect, thank you for that. The last thing I'll ask you then, with 9 games to go, I know you spoke with interim head coach John Worthington earlier today. Are you excited for the remainder of the season?
I'm excited. We've got 9 matches. We've got I think we've got at least 3 teams that we're playing that are playoff teams, that I think that, you know, those could be a major shift. We win those matches. And I mean, I think that, you know, maybe we can even run the table and win or tie all matches. In that case, I think the end of the season looks very different for us. But I think one way or another, I'm excited. I think that, you know, he's got the lads, that they've got a fight back in them. I know they're excited to Saturday to go play in Charlton.
Well, knock on wood and fingers crossed. And thank you again for your time, Kevin, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Raj.